We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Thursday, and it's the day after Christmas. However, I'm recording this the night of Christmas into the morning of the 26th. So, most of what's happened the last day or so has more to do with Christmas. That said, there are some things that Donald Trump has said and done that are absolutely ridiculous, but he does that every day, regardless of what the day of the week is or what holiday we might be experiencing. He did make some interesting comments to the public about Christmas Day, and we'll get to that a little bit later. It's just going to be me tonight. It's not a live, it's not a guest here. It's Christmas, so people have other shit to do. Um, I had some other shit to do too. We went celebrated Christmas for the day, got to see my granddaughter, rest of my family on my side. Friday, we're going to go meet with my son, my daughter-in-law, and my granddaughter, have our little interfamily Christmas. And then on the Saturday, we're going to meet with my wife's side of the family. So Christmas is yet to be done yet with our household. And that's great. I love seeing everybody and just having some joy in life. I did a TikTok recently that, in this world and in this country, the way things have been, it's hard to find a little joy now and again. Everybody's worried, everybody's concerned about what's going to happen next. And I've told you before, the best thing you can do is just kind of focus on what's in front of you, deal with it as it comes. It never ends up being as bad as what you think it's going to be. So, no reason to worry yourself and put yourself into a fit before we get there. But during the holidays, this is a great time to embrace some of that joy, spending time with family and friends, and just talking about the old days, having dinner, um, just having fun. That's what you need to do. I was hoping that after November 5th, things and life could get easier, but that wasn't the case. That doesn't mean that life's going to be horrible either. I think people put too much stock in the disasters that will befall us when Donald Trump is president. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to be great, but I don't think it's going to be um, cataclysmic. I just don't think it's going to be that. Donald Trump is going to have a tough time because he's going to have a difficult time um, experiencing some of the things coming his way. He's not going to get much help from the Republican Party in Congress, certainly not the Democrats. He's going to have some failures, and he's going to have to address that. Of course, he'll deny it or try to blame it on the Democrats, but the only people in power right now are the Republicans. So anything that happens after January 20th is going to be on Donald Trump and the Republicans. Well, it's just me today. Everybody else has stuff to do on Christmas. Imagine that. I got all my stuff done earlier, so I'm here. And as promised, we have a podcast every day. We had one on Christmas Day with Jay from California, our Gen Z correspondent, if you will. And I thank him for stopping by and talking to us. But today we have a bunch of emails to catch up on and some of the news stories that happened over the last day or two. So we should probably just get to that. I love the emails because I like the input from the listener. And that's why I also like having listeners on as guests. Now, I've done a couple of lives where I've had more than just me doing the live, and they've actually worked out pretty well. Eric's come along, TJ's come on in, Rebecca has stopped in, and having multiple guests on the lives has been kind of fun. I'm going to do some more lives, maybe even one tomorrow, and I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to have Eric and whoever wants to be there and sit with me and answer questions. But I'm going to take a risk I wouldn't normally take because you don't know who you're pulling up when you pull them into the box on the lives. But I'm going to try to play it like a call-in talk show. I'm going to say, you folks have questions. I'll put you up. You ask the questions. Then I'm going to get rid of you after we answer the questions. So we'll go through a bunch of people. So if you're in the live and you have a question, but don't want to sit there for an hour and try to add things in and just have questions, this will be your opportunity. Now, I haven't told anybody else that I'm doing this, but I just pull shit out of my ass and hope for the best. And I think it'll work pretty well. For the longest time, I didn't know how to cut people off once they were in the box per se, but I do now. So I'll just give a warning ahead of time. Any of you dumb fucks want to come on and cause some shit, I'm going to hang up on you. TJ's going to block your ass, and then I'm going to spend the next 4 or 5 minutes making fun of your sorry ass. Just a warning up front. So we'll see how that works out. That live, we'll see how that plays out. But since we're here, let's get down to some of the emails. This one comes from Tom. He says, I would love to hear your take on Matt Gaetz. Is this society going to just let this pedophile slide? When do you think we will see some charges brought on this asshole? I will lose faith in our world if both parties don't see the need to prosecute this asshole. Tom. Well, I don't personally think he'll get charged. And the reason is because they are state charges. And he's from Florida. Unless there's some other states that can come in, Florida is not going to charge him. He and his father are too in control in Florida. His daddy has bailed him out of so many things with his money. I'm sure the same would happen. You know, somebody like Ron DeSantis or maybe the Republican legislators in Florida don't want to give the libtards a chance to own them. So they'll just conveniently forget about it. And Matt Gaetz will not be charged. That's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong about that, but when we look at all the things the Republicans have done in the past, they're all over Joe Biden and Hunter Biden about shit they don't have evidence for. But Donald Trump is a flat out criminal. Matt Gaetz is a flat out criminal, and they will turn the other way. So I think Matt Gaetz is a insufferable piece of shit. I think we need to keep pushing out the information, because if we can't get him in a regular court, we can try to destroy him in the court of personal opinion. Matt Gaetz shouldn't be able to hold any office again in the future. The problem with it is he may be looking at being a senator to replace Marco Rubio or a governor to replace Ron DeSantis. Now, those of us that are normal and reasonably minded won't have a say in that situation. It'll be the citizens of Florida, the same citizens of Florida that helped to elect Donald Trump. So I don't know. It's a pretty sorry state of affairs in this country in terms of the legal system. I agree with you. Will Matt Gaetz pay a price? I don't fucking honestly think so, other than his reputation, and his reputation isn't shit anyway. So I'm sorry to say, I don't think anything's going to come of it. If it does and we get lucky, I'll be jumping on that fucking bandwagon, but I just don't see Florida doing anything to him. All right, I got this sent to me from a gentleman by the name of Chris. He says the original Manhattan grifter king in the 1800s. So he's bringing up somebody who was in the old-timey days that might be comparable to Donald Trump. He says William Boss Tweed was Trump's predecessor in strong-arming New York and then the whole country. Never made it to the White House, but did die alone in the Manhattan jail. Some of the parallels are amazing, and the amounts in terms of corruption in today's money were up there with Musk and the Koch brothers, Chris. And he sent me a link. If you're interested in this guy, I would just Google William Boss Tweed. I'm sure you'll get all the information you want. It doesn't surprise me there was somebody from the distant past that was similar to Donald Trump. I mean, grifters and thieves and corrupt motherfuckers. This isn't a new game. This has been going on since the start of this country. I will read that, though, because I'm interested to see what those parallels are. And I'm not silly enough to think that Donald Trump read his history and took his notes from Boss Tweed. But, you know, these grifters all have the same things in mind. How can I make money for myself? That's what Boss Tweed did. That's what Donald Trump did. It's just a matter of mentality and doing whatever benefits them. Thank you for that, Chris. I appreciate it. Next one says, "Hi, Mike. I've emailed you a couple of times before and just wanted to chime in again. I enjoy listening to your podcast and definitely like how you put all the TikToks into a podcast as well, the not a podcast. Also, you and your guests are very entertaining and informative, and if nothing else, often give me a topic or a starting point in which to go and look more deeply into issues and subject matter. I definitely agree with Kristen and also what you have said as well about hitting these companies that supported Trump and his ridiculous agenda where it hurts their wallet. I am now ceasing to shop at Walmart, Home Depot, etc. Magazines like Time are on their way out, as well as large newspapers, because they're not reporting all the facts pertinent to their stories or articles. I'm in the process of deleting my Facebook account as I'm no longer going to support them as they're giving contributions to a felon's inauguration. Facebook is becoming an antiquated social media platform anyway, and their algorithms and the way they block people has no rhyme or reason when I've seen horrendous things posted that have not been taken down. Since the election, I will say that I'm just absolutely amazed at how willfully ignorant a large part of our population is. It's just absolutely lazy to not even bother to look up talking points that the candidate you're voting for is bringing up so that you understand what they're saying. I'm also just amazed at how stupid people are to believe someone who has repeatedly lied and is on video and audio tape saying these lies and other horrible things. Well, thanks for letting me vent. Your platform is much appreciated, safe haven for like minded people like us. Wishing you happy holidays and happy, healthy, and prosperous new year. Kind regards, Michelle from Pennsylvania. Well, thank you, Michelle. I couldn't have said it better, certainly. I tend to agree with everything you point out there. The amount of ignorance in this country is absolutely appalling. We're so supposed to be the strongest country in the land, maybe the most educated, but we're not. We're not at all. I've said that before. You know, we've had a lot of crisis in this country, but I think one crisis that's overlooked is the educational crisis. You've got people that are either too stupid to want to go to college or any kind of education, or they can't afford it. So we get a large percentage of uneducated people. And with uneducated people, what do we get? We get Donald Trump elected to fucking president. That's what we get. We've got to somehow make this country, make the people in this country more educated, not as susceptible to being part of a cult. And honestly, some of these people that are in the cult with Donald Trump, I don't even think it's that they don't know these things or are too stupid to um, investigate something. I think they've got somebody like Donald Trump saying the things they want to hear, whether they be racist or sexist or anti Semitic or whatever the fuck it is. They just like what Donald Trump is saying. They rationalize it out and they just support it. Even when they're proven wrong, they stand up and they support this bullshit. We've got some sick and sorry people in this country. It just goes without saying. And it's sad, but they're far more than I expected in this last election. I was surprised in the first election that Donald Trump was in and won. I'm even more so horrified by what I see from people in this country. The only positive thing I see of this is if there's this many stupid young people in this country or people that just don't care and want to be part of a cult, I have high hopes for my granddaughter. She's a smart, intelligent young girl. And when she gets older, she's not going to have a lot of competition with a lot of the other youth out there. Now, that's not to say there aren't some smart young people. There certainly are. We have Jay on. We had Jay on yesterday. He's a 20-year-old young man, and he's very smart. But somehow, some way, we've got 48, 49% of this country that saw fit to vote for Donald Trump in spite of what they all know. Um, it's unbelievable. It's unexplainable. And I don't even know what to do about it. Like I've said, half kidding, but half serious. With this kind of crisis going on in this country, we should give everybody who wants one a free college education so we can get back to some intelligence in this country. All right, the next one says, "Hi, Boomer. When I was listening to your podcast today with Eric, he mentioned a TikTok user from Canada. Unlearned16 is her username. She is a teacher, I believe, grades 8 to 12. She teaches Canadian and U.S. history. She is amazing. She loves to troll Dirty Diaper Donnie. She's engaged to Anna, talks about her mom and late grandmother Ruby. She likes to go to Costco and eavesdrops on people's conversations. I think she would make a wonderful guest on your show." And then gives me an email address. "I look forward to listening to you every day. Thanks for keeping sane and educated. Laura." Well, I'll do what I can to email out. I don't have a lot of luck other than people that I know listen to this show. I will email folks who maybe have emailed me in the past and say, "Hey, you want to come on?" Generally, it's people coming to me saying, "Can I come on?" And I prefer it that way because people have schedules and people have their own concerns about speaking in public. But I have reached out to some folks now and again, and I can reach out to this person. She sounds interesting. And I have no problem with anybody coming on the show that's of a reasonable mind. If they happen to be a Trumplefuck, they can come on the show too, but I can't promise it's going to be a pleasant experience for them. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. All right. The next one says, "Hello, Boomer. As the days get closer to January 20th, I've become a bigger bundle of nerves. Every morning, I keep hoping that I will hear that somebody grew a backbone and threw the book at Trump that has disqualified him from being president. I heard that Rand Paul has nominated Musk to be selected as House Speaker. Good Lord, things just keep getting crazier with these Republicans. What's your take on this happening?" I don't think it's happening. Elon Musk would never get the votes to be Speaker of the House, in spite of the fact that Donald Trump may push him. Case in point was this funding bill. Elon Musk wanted a lot of shit in that funding bill. Donald Trump supported him, and they said, "Fuck yourself. We're not going to do that." I don't think a lot of these politicians are big fans of Elon Musk. I think they don't like him stepping on their toes or acting like he's got some power. He's a wealthy guy, granted, but he's not in government. Even his little group he's got, Doge, isn't a real committee inside the government. It sits outside the government. It can basically lobby like everybody else can, but they want to act like they've got some power. They don't. The only power they have is the power that is given to them by a variety of Republican representatives in the House and senators in the Senate. If they choose to give him some power, then he has power, even though he's not within the government. That said, if we're talking about MAGA, we're talking a smaller percentage than needed to pass a bill. So they can scream and rant and rave all they want, but the fact of the matter is he's probably not going to get very far. He wanted Rick Scott as the majority leader in the Senate, didn't get it. He wanted Matt Gaetz as Attorney General, didn't get it. He wanted the debt ceiling limits taken off in this funding bill. He didn't get it. And these were all Republicans pushing it back against Elon Musk. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that once Donald Trump is inaugurated as president. The other point that you make, there are people out there that saying, just wait, something's going to happen. Donald Trump will never be inaugurated. I've said before, I would love to see that, but I have seen nothing that would suggest that. Sure, the 14th Amendment is there, and sure, there was some funny business with the election, but that doesn't suggest that the Democrats, Joe Biden, or the DOJ will do anything about it. Over the past 4 years, they've dropped the ball. They've shit the bed when it comes to holding Donald Trump accountable. And I just can't imagine that they're going to finally get a set of balls now and actually do it. I'm not trying to be fatalistic or a naysayer. I'm just looking at the facts. What have they done in the past? If they were to come out and do something to shut Donald Trump down, that would be unprecedented. Now, I'm happy if they do. I'll be glad to eat my words if they do that. But at this point, on December 26th, less than a month away from the inauguration, I haven't seen anything that would suggest that. Now, the emailer goes on to say also, Fani Willis has been disqualified to remain as the DA in the Georgia case against Trump. Does Fani have a chance to fight this, or is it a done deal? Well, I think they have appealed it. She can't appeal it, so we'll see what happens. Fact of the matter is because Donald Trump is president, they'll probably sit on their hands until he's no longer the president. I'm not really worried about these other trials or other indictments. He has been convicted 34 times. I'm anxious to see what they do in terms of the sentencing. Do they sentence him and suspend the sentence till after he's no longer president? Or do they wait to sentence him till after he's no longer president? I don't know. I presume it's going to be one of those things. So we'll have to wait and see what ultimately happens. As for AOC, I was hoping she would have been the one to head the House of Oversight Committee. Pelosi has done a great job, but I'm at a point that it's time for her to retire and let younger Democrats start heading departments or being in power. My fondness for Pelosi is fading. And I agree with you. You know, when she was Speaker of the House, she did an excellent job. She was tough. She was savvy. She knew what the fuck was going on. And she was very effective. But all of us have to come to the point where we realize our expiration date is up. And I think Nancy Pelosi's expiration date is up. I think all the older people in the Democratic Party need to take a look at themselves and maybe step aside and let the younger folks come in. We saw what happened on November 5th, and a lot of that had to do with older politicians playing in under rules that were in the 90s or early 2000s. We're in a different world right now. If you can't compete on the level that you need to with the Republicans, you're going to fucking lose. It's just the way it is. Goes on to say, I've heard a lot about Executive Order 13848. Do you think President Biden will enforce this order? We were talking about that earlier. I understand the executive order. I understand that Joe Biden has signed it a couple of times to keep it intact. Do I think Biden will do anything to enforce that order? Honestly, no, I don't. I mean, again, we're dealing with people who come from a different era, are playing by different rules. I would hope they would do anything just to throw a fly in the ointment, but I'm just not convinced they will do that. Joe Biden's following the norms and rules that Donald Trump has trampled over. And until we get somebody who's willing to play on the same level, we're going to have a trouble with Donald Trump. The Dems being quiet is driving me bonkers as many people feel something may be brewing. Maybe it's just me staying stuck in la la land. I'll keep on holding on hope, hoping that by some miracle we'll be blessed with a miracle this Christmas. As I mentioned before, thank you for all you do, for holding my hand and for being the voice for many of us that have a hard time speaking up. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Be safe. I wish I could say Happy New Year, but that's impossible right now. Judy from New Mexico. Oh, you're right. It's been interesting that the Democrats have been pretty quiet. And it's reasonable to think, well, if they're so quiet, maybe something's brewing. And I would hope that to be the case. But based on what I've seen out of the Democrats up to this point, I'm afraid that it may mean nothing. But you make a good point. If after all was said and done, if there isn't something brewing, if there isn't some last ditch effort to save us, you have to look at the Democrats and say, you're a bunch of pussy ass bitches. You didn't ask for recounts, you just accepted it and you moved on. And when there was a chance to maybe do something to put a fly in the ointment, you refuse to do that. So I'm really hoping that there's something they can do between now and probably January 6th, which isn't that far away, talking a couple of weeks max. I hope that's the case. I'm just not too confident about it because the track record wouldn't suggest that they would do something like that. All right, the next one comes from Margie. I hope Joe Biden and Kamala Harris refuse to go to Trump's inauguration after what he did in 2020 after he lost, after the insurrection, the 4 years of hell this criminal has put us through, the horrible names and character defamation of Biden, Harris, and most Democrats, he says constantly. Biden should not grace Trump with his presence at the event. Hell, Trump did nothing with Biden's transition. Don't go, Joe. Margie. Yeah, I get what you're coming from. I understand that. But I personally think that we will see Joe Biden go. He's just that kind of guy. You know, every other president in history has gone to the inauguration of the next president except Donald Trump. Do we really want him lowering himself to the level with Donald Trump? Yeah, that's just not in Joe Biden's makeup to do something like that. He wouldn't do that. He's going to go. I suspect Kamala will go too. I think this inauguration will be one of the lowest attended inaugurations. We need to have all kinds of videos out there and shove it in Donald Trump's face after it's all said and done. All right, next one. Mike, I'm writing to give everyone a warning with a few facts to support what we can do to fight for our future. I'll start by saying the words billionaires are our biggest threat, and they won't stop until most of us are slaves. First of all, they're the main reason why Trump was elected. So many of them donated money to get him elected, not to Trump, but instead they sent tons of money to super PACs, which do not have to report donation information to U.S. government during the election campaign, but instead, not until after the PAC's fiscal year. We do know that Elon Musk spent $277 million to get Trump elected, and other billionaires and super PACs spent much more of this for the same purpose. Many of these billionaires own media outlets, including major radio, news networks, and TV networks, and they use their assets to support Trump in many ways. Now, after the elections have been declared for Trump, many of the just under 900 billionaires of this country are lining up to either partner with Trump to raid the national treasury even more or to kiss the filthy ass and cede allegiance to him. Immediately after the election, I sent you an email to suggest that we use the Rational Boomer podcast to form an activist advisory group to make ongoing recommendations to larger groups during lives to organize methods and strategies we can use to fight back. I suggested that Old Soul help with the startup for this initiative. Since that time, I've heard nothing about this. Most likely, Old Soul turned down the offer due to her other responsibilities. I don't mean to sound like an alarmist, but we must do something to save our future. We also need to set an example for other communities of a like mind to do things as well. Do you realize that in less than a month, Elon has almost doubled his fortune to just under 400 billion? Please reconsider and help organize such a group of talented people to organize the groups of Zoom meetings. Things that groups could do to write and distribute concise position papers on various topical issues to educate and pressure politicians. Help the many left-leaning independent contributors to build a progressive news media to fight back against the well-established right-wing media machine, or just call our leaders' offices to lobby. It's just a thought. It would be great to see a group like Boomer Brigade do something that might piss off Trump. D, I just want to tell you this. You send me a note and say, hey, I've got a great idea. Why don't you go do this? That's the problem. Everybody says, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? This time, everybody gets involved in this situation. And that you're a little perturbed that I didn't take hold of your idea and go run with it. Look, I do 6 to 8 TikToks a day. I do a podcast every day. I do lives. I do all of this stuff. There's only so much I can do. I'm not an organizer. Old Soul, I mentioned it to her. And she's got a lot of shit going on too. You can't just count on me. We got to count on everybody to do it. Now, I will tell you this: there is a gentleman who is a uh, creator on TikTok. His name is Richard Green, and he used to be a producer and a host on Air America, which was a left-leaning network. It went on for some time and ended up dying off because there wasn't enough support for it. He's come to me and some other creators and said, I'd like to create a spot on YouTube or TikTok or something where a bunch of creators like myself would come together and do lives. You know, maybe have one site where you can get a bunch of creators, one right after the other, with either recorded videos or lives, where we can get some more focus on liberal leaning information. I told Richard Green I'd be happy to help, but I'm not an organizer. I'm just not. I have trouble organizing myself. I'm working on content, I'm working on information, and I put it out there. And I hope to God other people listen to it and then pass it on. That's what I can do. I'm a retired guy. I'm not a great organizer in the first place. That's not me. If there is somebody who can organize something and say, look, I'm going to put this together, can you help out by doing what you do? I'll do that. I'll do that. But I'm not looking for another fucking job, especially when it's going to be as time intensive as it can. I need to focus on what I do best. And that's what this is. Organizing shit is not my, put it this way, I don't like working for other people. I like to do what I know how to do and do it to the best of my ability and then see where the chips fall. There are some things in the works out there. Yeah, and I'm sorry if you think I didn't react to you quickly enough or I didn't do what you wanted me to do. But you have to know something about me. When somebody tells me you need to do this, you can almost be certain I'm not going to fucking do it. Not that I think it's a bad idea. I think you're coming to the wrong guy to organize these things. And for me to go to Old Soul and say, you know, your time's pretty tight right at this point. Do you want to take another responsibility? Now, the fact of the matter is, Old Soul would take that responsibility, but I'm not the one to sell it to her because I don't comprehend it in the way you do. Here's what I'm telling you. It's got to be, if we want to win something in 2026 and 2028, it's got to be more than just me. I'm not that powerful. The only power I have is in all of you who are listening. There needs to be a bunch of people working on different things. And not everybody has that flexibility. Not everybody can do that. So we got to create the grassroots effort, the groundswell, if you will, and we've got to get this thing moving. We've got to get more people looking at what's going on the liberal side of the media. It's going to be independent media. And I think we got a good start there. I mean, we've got 50% of the audience leaving MSNBC, 60% leaving CNN. Where the fuck are they going? Well, they're coming to the internet. They're coming to YouTube and TikTok and the like. So we need to take this opportunity when they're losing followers and viewers and we're gaining some and make hay with it. And the only way to do that is to keep providing decent content, educational content that will attract their attention. Because I'll tell you this, it's more than just putting out information. People get bored easy. They don't have a long attention span. That's why you have so much trouble with TikToks or Midas Touch going into these lengthy reports. When I do a TikTok, I try to get to the point and have a payoff at the end so you know exactly what's going on. We got to take a note from what we saw in this last election. We got to get loud. We've got to control the narrative. And we've got to point out every fuck up that Donald Trump and the Republicans make. We've got to do that. That's what we must do. But if you want me to organize some group and be the leader of some that's just not me. I'm not doing that. I'm not good at it. So I wouldn't even try to do it. There are people that are good at it. Maybe they're in this audience, but I'm not the guy. I do what I do. You see what I do. You hear what I do. That's what I do best. And that's what I'm going to continue to do. Everybody has different talents, different abilities. And that's why we need more than just, hey, Mike, you go do it. I'm not going to do it because I can't. It's not, that's not me. So I appreciate the thought. And please don't get butthurt if you think I'm ignoring your idea. It's not a bad idea. I just have no clue how you fucking do something like this. Maybe Richard Green with his concept is part and parcel to what you're suggesting. Well, then get in contact with Richard Green and tell him that you want to help because he's looking for help from as many people as he can get. And I've offered to help him with what I can do. But just don't go tell people you should do this or you should do this. We're in a bad situation here. Everybody should say, I'm going to do what I can do best. And not everybody can be the big time organizer. Maybe it's just talking. Maybe it's just being a consumer of this type of stuff. But everybody's got to get out there and do it. Don't count on somebody else doing it for you. All right. All right, next up. Donald Lame Duck Trump is so consumed with the notion of becoming an actual real live billionaire when Elon buys Truth Social that he suppressed what's left of his logical brain and shot himself in the foot. He has, in so doing, confirmed the rest of the world and the U.S. military brass that he's the very lamest of ducks before he's even sworn in. The ultimate in political suicide. Sorry, Steve Bannon. Sorry, Jared and Ivanka. Sorry, MTG. And sayonara, Elon. Somebody should make a new bumper sticker that says quack, quack. Thanks, Boomer, for reading this. Happy Krusna. Don't know what that means. Chris. Yeah, Donald Trump has been a failure at virtually everything he's ever done. He always fails. And what's going to happen um, on January 20th and beyond, it's going to be the ultimate failure because he's going to get pushback from the Republicans. He's not going to be able to get away with some of the stuff he does. And if he does attempt this stuff, the Republicans are going to be in a bigger hurry to get rid of him than the Democrats. They could impeach him. They could use the 25th Amendment. They could do any number of things, but they are not going to let Donald Trump bury Republican Party. Not that they aren't already, but they still believe there's some hope and they can save themselves. Donald Trump will fail miserably. If he puts tariffs in effect, well, then the economy is going to take a hit and he's going to take a big hit. The Republicans are going to take a big hit and somebody's going to be held responsible. And ironic as it may seem, it may be the Republicans that finally hold Donald Trump fucking responsible. All right, the next one says, hi, Mike. My stress level since Trump won has been so high. I'm trying to regain my equilibrium since the election. For my mental health, I try to stay away from every story that has to do with one of his cabinet picks or stupid things he says to foreign countries or in general. When does he say anything smart? I was so convinced that Kamala would win. I don't think coming on your show being a Debbie Downer would be appreciated by your listener. Plus, I'm deliberately trying to stay only on the surface of what's going on. So I don't think I have anything to add. Inauguration day will be here before you know it. And I feel so bad for my kids. Ilona. I'd sent a note. Ilona sent me a note. And you remember Ilona. She was the lovely lady that was on the program some time back. She's a great guest. And I said, hey, you should come back on. And you can hear from her email that not really feeling it at this point, and I understand that. But Alona, you shouldn't. I don't think you'd be a Debbie Downer. I think you have some great insights to what's going on, and while you might be a little depressed about what's happening, we must find the hope because there always is hope. And Alona, you know that better than anybody. So come on the show. Just send me an email and we'll get through it. I'll walk you through it. All right. The next one comes from Chris, who's also been on the show in the past. Hey, Mike, I'm listening to TikTok Live podcast aired on Friday the 20th. The Republicans may have to impeach Trump just to get rid of Elon Musk. What do you think? Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I don't think they'll have to impeach him to get um, rid of Elon Musk. I think Donald Trump will ultimately get rid of him. He's already getting under Donald Trump's skin with all this talk of Elon Musk being president and him being first lady or vice president. That's driving him nuts. Um, Keep in mind, Donald Trump has relationships, but they never last very long. Think about everybody that was on his cabinet the first time around. Many of them didn't last very long. None of them lasted at all. And this is what will happen with Elon Musk ultimately. Probably even quicker because Elon Musk, too, is a narcissist. And when you've got two narcissists standing next to each other, things get fucked up real quick. So I don't think they'll have to impeach him to get rid of Elon Musk. Elon Musk will be gone. They may have to impeach him to save the country and to save the Republican Party. All right, the next one says, hello, Mike. Since the Republican House can't even get the votes to pass legislation they sponsor, and the Democrats are pretty much unanimous on what they vote on under leadership Hakeem Jeffries, without Democrat votes, they can't choose a speaker on January 3rd. What are the odds the Democrats can sneak Jeffries in as speaker? Sam. Well, I'm going to do a story about that, I think, later about they're going to vote on the speaker on January 3rd. And if they don't have a speaker by January 6th, that may fuck some things up to the extent I'm not sure, but in that story, we'll talk about it. Um, could they sneak in Hakeem Jeffries? I suppose if some Republicans get upset enough, I mean, basically, the Democrats would vote for Hakeem Jeffries. They do every time. And you'd need three Republicans to say, fuck it, let's get Hakeem Jeffries. So it could happen. I mean, this is something we discussed the last time around when Johnson was elected the first time. Yeah, it could happen. But what we saw in the November 5th election is you can try to get support from Republicans. You can try to get them to cross the aisle, but they just don't fucking do it. So I'd be surprised if there were three Republicans that said, yeah, let's just let Hakeem Jeffries be the Speaker of the House. I don't see them doing that. I thought at one point that might not be a bad idea, but uh, you can't trust the Republicans to do much of anything. As long as they can't agree with themselves, Democrats pretty much have the power. Nothing can be passed without Democrats' votes. And if that's the case, that leaves a lot of room for negotiation and for Democrats to get what they want or to shut down what they don't want. All right, next one says, hi, Boomer. Jackie here from Broadcast, Alabama. We need to be screaming from the rooftops about the cuts the Republicans want to make for children's cancer. Fucking hypocrites. The way they pretend to be against abortions. I see more dumbass MAGA supporters crying about the shit Trump wants to do now more than the Democrats. I love saying, I told your asses so. Elon needs to be deported. Love the show and all the guests, Jacqueline. Well, Jacqueline, you're absolutely right about that. Um, I will give you an update with regards to the funding for the children with cancer. After that was cut out of the bill that was passed in the House and in the Senate, there was a standalone bill for returning the monies for the children with cancer. So while it wasn't in the bill, the funding bill, they did pass it. So those kids will get the funding they need. But there's one area where Donald Trump and Elon Musk fucked up. In that bill was funding for health care for victims of 9/11. And this was supposed to extend out for another 10 years or so. Well, that was stripped from that bill. So the victims of 9/11 don't have the funding that they were expected, which is pretty fucking ridiculous. Um, and there are some unions, fire department unions in New York that are very upset about this. They're very upset with Donald Trump and Elon Musk and the Republicans for stripping this out. They're mad because, it was something that benefited them and their people. But here's the thing, those same unions supported Donald Trump. So while I feel sorry for the victims of 9/11, to the unions, I will just say this: you got exactly what you fucking voted for. You want me to feel sorry for you? Do you want me to fight for you? Why would we? Why would we? You did this to yourself. You thought you were smart. You didn't look into it. You didn't know what your candidate was going to do. You just you just voted for Donald Trump because you thought he was a tough guy. You thought that you supported his racist and sexist tendencies. You got what you wanted. Now you want to fucking cry about it. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy. I have sympathy for those poor people, but their leaders fuck them over. You, the unions for the fire departments, you fuck them over. Now, instead of crying to Donald Trump, you should take responsibility for what you did. All right. Next one comes from Judy from Australia. Hi, Mike. Still loving your show, especially the lives. Senator Chuck Grassley, as current Republican Senate pro tem, not Patty Murray, Democrat, might end up as president if they can't settle on Speaker. He's 91. Judy, Australia. Judy, you're wrong about that. The pro tem is the person in the majority. So Chuck Grassley isn't in the majority currently. He may be in 20 right after the inauguration, but right now he is not. It is Patty Murray, the Democrat, who is the Senate pro tem. Doesn't change. Actually, it would change on January 3rd when Congress is seated. So she is currently the Senate pro tem. All right, the next one comes from somebody with the name MEC. Mike, I'm a regular listener to your podcast. Please let every one of your followers know about Trump's threat made against Panamanian government regarding the fees charged for use of the canal and the fact that he's being sued by them for failing to pay taxes owed for his past business transactions in this country. Yeah, that's the ironic thing. That's a story I heard yesterday. Donald Trump is talking about reclaiming the Panama Canal, which is funny because we never owned the Panama Canal. Yes, we did fund a lot of the building and the ongoing maintenance of the Panama Canal. That's what a country the size of ours does. That's what a country that uses that Panama Canal 70% of the time. That's what we do. Donald Trump is angry that they're charging us too much money. But we also find out that Donald Trump owes some back taxes in Panama for some of his businesses. So this may have a personal bent to what Donald Trump is thinking. And and that's not surprising. Donald Trump is serving himself. There are going to be lawsuits from Panama against Donald Trump regarding what he owes. There's a city in Michigan that's Grand Rapids, Michigan is bitching now because he owes them $49,000 from the campaign and some campaign stops in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Well, what the fuck? You know this guy doesn't pay his bills. Why do you extend credit to this dumb fuck? I'd like to feel sorry for you, but you knew what you were getting into. He's never going to pay you, and you should know better. Everything Donald Trump does has some way of serving whatever problem or issue he has. So this doesn't surprise me at all with the Panamanian government. He's not going to be able to take back. He's not going to be able to take back the Panama Canal. It's just absolutely silly. It's just not going to happen. Dear Mike, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family. Thanks for everything you do. Cress, thank you, Cress. Happy birthday. Happy or Merry Christmas to all of you as well. Or if you don't celebrate Christmas, whatever it is you celebrate, take the time to grasp some joy and spend some time with family and friends. I know Christmas is over as you listen to this, but we still have New Year's, and New Year's is a time when you get together with family as well. Hello, Mike. I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you, your family, and all your guests you have on the podcast. I want to first say that I had wrote letters, one to my congressman, Could not see him at the time, but put in a request. I had stated in my letter to obstruct everything the president-elect, as I wanted to say nimble nuts. I also said Dems have to control the narrative and lean harder, push back. They have to change the messaging and appeal more to the working class. I have to say the Dems did a good job helping avoid the government shutdown. I listened to some of them, all of the young blood, they seem to push harder. As I said in a lot of my comments, bring in the young blood. That's my take. I want to also end with the Trumplefuck story. I encountered this clown and he said he was a rep. Should have called the SPP. He spewed off about immigrants. I said, you are an immigrant. Said he was Irish. I said, take the immigrants away from how much food will you have on the table and at what cost? Then I proceeded to ask him, how do you like President Alonia and VP DJ Schittler? He said, and I quote, I didn't vote for him. I said, sure, you didn't. And that was that. He said, I said, sure you didn't. And that was that he seemed to have an IQ of a houseplant. I want to say thanks, Mike, for reading my email. Have a safe and blessed night. My sister says happy holidays from Hawaii. Steve and sister Cheryl. Well, now Cheryl, who's in the comments a lot too, sent something as well. She says, hi, Mike, wishing you and your family a very Merry Christmas and a blessed Christmas. And may the new year bring you all the very best of everything. I listened to your podcast and your shorts, and yes, we need to have joy and be grateful for our families. My mom has been gone 4 years now. I miss her more and more. My dad passed away when I was 17, so I was glued to mom, and it's very difficult without her. I talk to my brother Steve every day. Thanks for keeping us all above water. You're such an inspiration to us. Much aloha, Cheryl Lynn. Well, thank you, Sharon. I hope you had a happy holidays too. And I know what it's like to lose a mom. I lost mine. And I was pretty close to her too. It is tough. But as we get older, this is the things that happen. At some point, our time will come. And I can only hope that when my time does come, I will tell my kids and my grandkids, don't mourn over me. I was here. I did what I had to do. I did the best I could. And wherever I am after I pass away, just trust I'm going to be watching over my family and doing whatever I can to help when I can. So, I mean, it's all inevitable. We're all going to have to go through this. So, no reason to fight it. I know there's a lot of fear in people's minds about that, but I've told you before, don't fear things that we don't control. It's just wasted energy. All right. Yet another email. Merry Christmas, Boomer. Mike, to you and your family and the Boomer Brigade. I took great interest in your video ASAP. You understood why people feel why the economy is so bad and essentials such as rent and housing are out of reach. That, thanks in general, like education is priced out of reach. It's true, and so be it. However, this is an example of not being a victim, but a volunteer. The same people who are complaining about it condoned it for 5 decades. Now, by falling for the get rid of regulations and make government smaller. You and I are both participants, albeit until we regained our sanity after voting for Reagan. From 1946 to above 1973, America enjoyed the biggest economic boom in history. The top elite were taxed at 90%. From that, we built an education system that was the envy of the world, an incredible job market, highest salaries, many and infrastructures, etc. Because of the middle class was becoming economically and especially politically powerful, the elite saw us as too free. So Nixon's domestic policies ended that era, opened China, spread divisions and economic downturns. Reagan's further expanded those policies by deregulation and supply side or trickle down economics, which deliberately destroyed the power of the middle class, destroyed the free market, and let the corrupt scumbag Scalia to enact Citizens United, which put the final nail in the coffin. Yeah, Justice Scalia. I'll say I'm glad he's fucking dead. I hope he's not in a nice place. The people complaining about all of this voted for their own demise and disastrous results. The destruction of the educational system reinforced the ignorance and prejudice which are now dividing us. There are no victims here. You wanted small government. This is what it's like. Now we've fallen for these clowns who are going to continue sticking the hot pipe up your rear end while telling you you're going to make you great again. And it all the fault of gays, minorities, and migrants. Well, no, it isn't because you're morons. Boomer Brigade not included. So no sympathy here. Is what you get when hate and stupidity replaces thinking. You know, being woke. That's why they hate woke. Woke is when you see through the bullshit. The waiter has now brought the bill for it. Z-Man. And I couldn't agree with you more, Z-Man. The bill has come due. We've allowed Republicans and elites to get away with a lot of things, and it's largely due to the fact that we have been apathetic. That's a sad thing about this. The reason we're in this position, we can blame Reagan, we can blame Nixon, we can blame Trump. But the reason we're in this position is because of us. We let it happen. We were too busy to fight back, to speak up. We figured there's nothing we could do. And here we are. So now we're at a point where we must speak up in order to save our very democracy, to save our very lives. And hopefully people see it now. Hopefully the majority of people see it. Hopefully Republicans will begin to see it as well. And when that happens, maybe we can get some work done. Problem is after all these decades of apathy, we're going to have a large hole to dig out of. It's not something we can fix quickly, but I'd rather be on the road to fixing it than waiting for it to be destroyed more. And that's kind of where I think a lot of people feel we are with Donald Trump becoming president. There is a turning point here, though. I mean, we can only take so much as a people. We can only take so much in terms of a bad economy and taxes and treatment of the constituency. You know, whether it be LGBTQ, people of color, different religions. There's going to come a time when people start pushing back, and I think we're already seeing it to a certain extent. We're seeing it when 50% of MSNBC's audience walks away, 60% of CNN's audience walks away. People stop going to Walmart because of their behavior. People shooting down a CEO of healthcare companies because people day in and day out are being robbed, not only of their money, but of their very lives. People are noticing it now, and people are angry about it. Maybe a little too late, but not really too late. It's never too late. But we should have realized this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, but we didn't. So here we are. We can't worry about what happened in the past or what didn't happen in the past. We got to worry about what's next. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to fight as best we can with what we have to deal with. The odds are against us. I understand that, but that doesn't mean we're going to fucking lose, especially when you're talking about Americans saying, fuck this, let's push back. And that's part of what, you know, I'm suggesting we do and what Mike Z-Man is talking about doing too. We've really got to get the fire within us, build a fire under people's asses and understand what's truly at stake. There are people out there that say we can't do anything. Well, that's absolute bullshit, and you know it. And even if it was something that said, I don't know that we can do anything, that doesn't mean you don't do anything. You fucking do it. And you keep doing it until you win. And that possibility of winning is still certainly there. So for anybody to stand on the sidelines and wait for somebody else to do it, well, fuck you. We'll call you when we're done. But don't take any credit for it because you didn't do anything. You don't have to do a lot. You just have to do something. Well, it was Christmas yesterday. And of course, Joe Biden put out a nice greeting and such. Donald Trump put out a greeting too, but surprise, surprise, he fucked it up and looked like an asshole. President-elect Donald Trump spent his Christmas morning taking shots at his political opponents in a pointed message, which I find interesting. Motherfucker, you won. Why are you still fighting with Democrats? What do you hope to gain by fighting with Democrats? You won. Why don't you do what you said you were going to do and make America great again, whatever the fuck that means? But still, you got to fight. That's just like all the little Trump-fucks coming to my page wanting to argue. What's to argue about? You won. Go do something. On Wednesday, Trump, 78 years old, kicked off his rant on his social media platform, True Social, by calling out soldiers in China while accusing them of illegally operating in the Panama Canal. Merry Christmas to all, including to the wonderful soldiers of China who are lovingly but illegally operating the Panama Canal, where we lost 38,000 people in its building 110 years ago. Always making certain that the United States puts in billions of dollars in repair money, but will have absolutely nothing to say about anything, the GOP leader wrote. Trump went on to bash Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau by mockingly calling him governor before doubling down on its desire to purchase Greenland from Denmark, citing the move to national security purposes. Fucking ridiculous. Also to Governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, whose citizens' taxes are far too high. But if Canada was to become the 51st state, their taxes would be cut by more than 60 cents, just like our energy costs are going to be cut by 50%. Don't think so, Donald. We know you're a fucking liar, so shut the fuck up. Their businesses would immediately double in size, and they would be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world. Their businesses would be doubled in size. How do you figure that? Oh man, he will just say virtually anything to get people to side with him. And we know he lies. I'll cut the cost of groceries. And then as soon as he gets elected, he says, well, that's going to be hard. If you're still trusting Donald Trump, you got to be a stupid motherfucker. Honestly, you have to be just absolutely ignorant. Now, like he went on to say, likewise to the people of Greenland, which is needed by the United States for national security purposes, who want the U.S. to be there, and we will. No, you're not. Denmark said they aren't selling it. The people of Greenland don't want that. Denmark is sending military support to Greenland just in case you're fucking goofy enough to do something. But I will tell Denmark he doesn't have the balls to do anything. He talks a good game, but he never comes through. In a separate post, Trump jeeringly wished a Merry Christmas to the radical left lunatics. Merry Christmas to the radical left lunatics who are constantly trying to obstruct our court system and our elections and are always going after great citizens and patriots of the United States. But in particular, their political opponent, me, he continued. Or how about Matt Gaetz? Those damn liberals are going after Matt Gaetz, this pedophile piece of shit who you support and still fucking support. Wrapping up his less than jolly two-part note, Trump saved his final blow for President Biden as he criticized him for commuting the sentences of 37 out of 40 federal death row inmates in a move that changed their punishment to life in prison without parole. They know that their only chance of survival is getting pardons from a man who was absolutely no idea what he's doing. He added also to the 37 most violent criminals who killed, raped, and plundered like virtually no one before them, but were just given incredibly a pardon by Sleepy Joe, writing that he refused to wish a Merry Christmas to those unlucky souls. He said, instead, I'll say, go to hell. I don't think he pardoned them necessarily. He just took them off the death row situation. Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. He doesn't understand the difference between a pardon, a commutation, or anything. He's fucking ignorant. And speaking of criminals, as we get toward the end here, former Florida rep Matt Gaetz on Monday shared a note that he purportedly received from President-elect Donald Trump, posting a photo of the message online after the House Ethics Committee said it found evidence that Gaetz engaged in sexual misconduct and illegal drug use while in Congress. The image shared on X, formerly Twitter, showed a printout of a November article about allegations at the center of the report, which was made public this week, published by conservative outlet The Federalist. The article had questioned the credibility of people speaking out against Gaetz. At the top of the printout, a handwritten message addressed to Gaetz reads, "Very unfair." I got a great note from President Trump, the former Florida representative wrote beside the image. It was not clear when the photo was taken. This comes after the House report released earlier Monday accused Gaetz of breaking state and federal laws, saying it found substantial evidence against him. It alleged that he paid tens of thousands of dollars to women, likely in connection with sexual activity and or drug use, claiming that he had used or possessed illegal substances like cocaine and ecstasy. It further alleges that he paid a 17-year-old girl for sex in 2017. The House Ethics Committee suggested that Gaetz violated House rules and other standards of conduct, prohibiting prostitution, statutory rape, illicit drug use, impermissible gifts, special favors or privileges, and obstruction of Congress, according to the report. However, the report said it didn't find that Gaetz had violated federal sex trafficking laws. The Department of Justice has previously launched a sex trafficking probe targeting Gaetz, but it's dropped its investigation last year with no charges being filed. Now, the House Ethics Committee wrote that it heard from over a half a dozen witnesses who attended parties, events, and trips with Representative Gaetz from 2017 to 2020, including an associate named Joel Greenberg, who's currently serving an 11-year prison sentence after pleading guilty to multiple federal crimes, including sex trafficking. Greenberg was his best buddy. So, yeah, I'm sure Matt Gaetz didn't do anything. Now, Greenberg was among the witnesses suggested to be unreliable by the Federalist article seen in Monday's photo from Gaetz, as the DOJ had reportedly worried that he would lack credibility to a jury. Yeah, that's just pussy ass Merrick Garland not having the balls to prosecute somebody who is in fact a pedophile. Merrick Garland is a whole different fucking story that we have to look back on in history, and I hope his legacy is shot because he's been the worst attorney general, only second to William Barr, in all honesty. That's why I think Donald Trump should keep Merrick Garland. Nobody's helped Donald Trump from being accountable more than Merrick Garland. All right, we are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.